Hello and welcome. The first Western singer to perform in Beirut after the end of Lebanon's civil war will soon be heading to Iran, making him the first Western pop star performing there since the 1979 revolution. And although he has well-established fan bases in the Middle East and Latin America, he's best known in the West for this classic love song.
Lady in red is dancing with me, cheek to cheek. There's nobody here, just you and me. It's where I wanna be, but I hardly know.
Chris De Burgh is now out with a new album showcasing talent from the Arab world as he collaborates with a young star he discovered in Lebanon, Tina Yamut. On today's program, singer-songwriter Chris De Burgh joins us to talk about breaking cultural barriers with music. Now, don't forget, we take your calls on this show, and you can reach us at the numbers at the bottom of your screen. Great to have you with us.
Hi, Riz.
Tell us about these Middle East adventures. You've managed to become this huge star throughout the Middle East, not just because of your past work now, but because of these collaborations.
Well, I think for me it started particularly with Lebanon in the late 80s, early 90s, but a friend of mine was the Irish consul, Sir Mark Cochrane, and he told me regularly stories about people listening to my music, and had done for a number of years during the civil war there. And when the invitation came to perform there for the first time in '93, I jumped at the chance because, I mean, going back a little earlier in my career, I went to South Africa during a time when it wasn't acceptable to go there. And I've lived in Africa, and I wanted to, it's not exactly a missionary, that's the wrong word, but to show people that music is an international language. By being somewhere, you achieve a lot more than by not being somewhere, if you understand that meaning. So in Lebanon, we played 2 nights up in North Beirut at a university, 20,000 people a night. And I remember vividly the smiles on the faces and the tears, thank you for coming. And I've been a regular visitor to Lebanon ever since. And my first collaboration was with Elissa, who was a major star there. And I was, with my band, we were rehearsing for a concert in Beirut. And we went to this wonderful little restaurant. It was out of doors, so you can picture the scene. It was hot, out of doors. And I remember being really struck, not by the fantastic food, the mezze that comes out, but the beautiful young women and the good-looking young men, all would have been in their late teens, early 20s, who would have lived through that war. And I wrote a song called Lebanese Night, which then I did a collaboration with Elissa, which was, she sang in Arabic, I sang in English, and that was the first big hit.
Well, let's let our viewers hear a bit of that. This is Chris De Burgh's collaboration with Elissa. When you make references to that, you know, when you run for your life from the hell coming down from the sky and stuff, are you adding a political voice in that message?
Yes, but I'm an internationalist. I have a universal attitude towards politics. Having been brought up all over the world, Argentina, Africa, Malta, Ireland latterly, and Ireland through the troubles that we went through, I understand very well the politics of the countries that I'm getting involved with. We'll talk about it around in a minute. But I'm not politically naive, but what I look at is the fact that if you take the leaders away from the picture, you will see a lot of people who may not agree with what their leaders are doing, but they love music and they love the emotions. And what I find really striking is that how at a concert or a football match, for example, people who are sworn enemies outside that venue, they all come together and they enjoy one thing, and music is a way of getting that across. And I prefer not to make political statements, certainly not in music, because that excludes the other people. But for me, I have always felt such a warmth from the Lebanese people and indeed the Arab world.
I want to get an email question that came in from Oman, actually, from Khalid Al-Haribi, who writes in saying, why is it that few performers pay attention to cultural issues? God bless Chris De Burgh and all those who try to bring people together. Now, what's made you pay attention to those cultural issues, do you think? Is it that background you had travelling?
It probably is, you know, Riz. It's not a mission of mine. I have to really stress this. I just feel I'm a very, very fortunate person to have had a long career in the music business. 34 years now, and that's what this new Now and Then record's all about. But the fact is that music speaks across barriers, across boundaries, through cultures. The key is you must always respect another culture. If I travel to another country, I respect their culture, their traditions. I'm not trying to change anything, but I love, it's just the sight of the young people looking at you saying, we love this music, thank you for coming. I mean, the next one that I had, for example, with a collaboration was with a young man from the Star Academy program, Hani Hussein, and he's from Egypt.
I'm going to get on to Hani in a second, but we have a caller on the line from Indonesia. Good to hear from there, and Eki, your question, please.
I just want to congratulate Mr. Chris De Burgh and to let him know that I've been his fan for many years, stretching to close to 20 years now. I'm so much intrigued in his music, title album Lady in Red. When I was in the university down there in Nigeria in the late 80s, I was so fond of that track, and it really gave me some words that made me understand more about love. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks for the call.
Of course, you know, you have got that huge fan base that feels inspired by music. And I wonder, in terms of your own inspirations, being in a region such as the Middle East, being in Lebanon, knowing what it's been through, how has it changed your perspective on how the West deals with that region?
I think it's very important for people, firstly, not to believe too much of what they are hearing. This is why I've always thought that I have a cynical attitude, I have to tell you, towards news gathering and the written word in newspapers, because I'm only being told what people want me to know. I feel that I learn a lot more by actually going. And I spoke to you earlier this evening before we went on air about incidents like, goes back to my belief that if you do not love your audience, how can you expect them to love you? And I remember coming from a Star Academy program, walking into a big restaurant in Beirut, and everybody just got up and started clapping. And I got very emotional. I just thought, this is extraordinary. You know, these people have been through such a lot. All I am is a singer. But I think the fact that I'm actually there and bringing something to them that I can take back to my own country is very important to me. I remember distinctly the first time in South Africa, I was taken to Soweto to a very small little church hall, about 100 people in there, 2 white people, myself and this gentleman came with me, and a blind poet got up and he said, Mr. Chris De Burgh, I have written a poem for you. And I was hugely moved by this, and I said, I will go home and to my country and I will be an ambassador, not just for one side or the other, but just to say humanity matters a hell of a lot more than politics. And I wrote a song called The Simple Truth, which is on this record, that the life of a child is more than a forest, the life of a child is more than a border, the life of a child is more than religion, the life of a child is only a heartbeat from eternity. We must look after our children.
We have a caller on the line from Ireland. Benedicta, what would you like to ask Chris?
Hi, Riz. I've been on your show before. Good evening.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that Chris De Burgh is doing a very, very good job out there internationally, and I wanted to say that immigration is quite new in Ireland, and we have serious problems in Ireland with integration, and we could do with some of Chris's talents here back home. And recall as well that his daughter was a former Miss World, so between him and his daughter, I think we could do with a lot of these talents that Chris is showcasing in the Middle East. I'm very happy to collaborate with him in that regard. I do agree with him that music understands a universal language, and we really need to begin from home.
All right.
Well, no, I would agree. You know, immigration is a problem in my country, in Ireland, and it is also a problem. When you open borders, you have to expect things will go wrong. It's not a perfect world, and if there is something that I can personally do to assist the integration that caller just mentioned, I would be very happy to do it. The trouble is, it's the old story. I'm not using this word about myself, but a prophet is without honor in his own country. People do not listen so much to people like me within my own country, but somebody comes from outside, for some reason they'll listen to more. But I can certainly take on board exactly what you're saying, and it is an uncomfortable situation for immigrants into countries like that.
Of course, as you say, you know, the inspiration you get for the music will obviously be based on your experiences. And you mentioned that collaboration with Hani Hussein,
Yeah.
The Egyptian singer. And we're going to just play a little bit for our audience here of that the song My Father's Eyes. Even if the songs don't have, if they have messages of unity and so on, they can come across as politicized to people. Do you ever find there's a risk of backlash from your Western fans because you're collaborating in a part of the world that is largely misunderstood?
No, I've never ever felt that. I've never seen anything like that on my website. It's possible that there may be a minority of people who feel that way, but I think a lot of people understand what I'm doing here, which is going back to what I was saying. It's better to do something than to do nothing. And I just feel that we are living in one world, which is the title of a song of mine, and we have to unify. We have to understand that if you take away a man's skin, everything inside is virtually identical. You know, there's tiny differences, but why can't we live together? And a really interesting thing occurred to me recently in Beirut. I'd taken down with me a journalist from the Independent newspaper, a young woman who had never been there before, and I said, what you're going to see sometimes will shock you, sometimes surprise you, and sometimes you will absolutely love. But one thing you will not see is hate and history. You can't see it, you can only feel it. Similarly, if somebody were to stray into the wrong area of North Belfast during the Troubles, they wouldn't know what the history and the hate meant. And if that can be addressed, if that can be removed by positive energy, positive feelings, positive thoughts, I get the strong impression that what politicians say is not really listened to an awful lot. I'm not saying that pop stars should be listened to at all, because there's too many of us think we know a lot more about things than we actually do. But I think just making a difference that's what I like to try and do.
We've got to pause now. Before we go to the break, let's take another listen to One World, the song you mentioned.
Just the same.